Come manifest your best life with 190 Vision.
Guidance. Many individuals struggle with the concept of guidance, understanding it and following it. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. But first, let's find out. What is guidance, honey?
I would explain guidance as it's advice, right? I guess that would be a way to look at it. For example, if you want to make a decision about something, you would normally go to someone you respect or maybe an expert, right?
Mm-hmm.
You might even have a mentor or a life coach that you go to, and they help you brainstorm, figure out what's best, right? Using pros, cons, whatever approach you use.
Right.
Here at 190 Vision, that process is handled by connecting with members of your team.
Your spiritual team.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
We deal with this spiritual realm. Why is that so important? Because as much as human beings have great experience, great success, they still don't know what your full picture is, what your life purpose is. Why are you here in this lifetime? What are you supposed to accomplish? We don't know. I don't even know. People think I know. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But by connecting with the spiritual team or the ascended masters, they see the big picture. They know your karmic record. They know what you're supposed to accomplish. So we turn to them for guidance. We turn to them for advice. And because we're dealing with the spiritual realm, here at 190 Vision, we call it guidance.
Got it.
Does that clarify things a bit?
Yes.
So I think I also just covered how it works. Someone contacts us and the person might say something like, I'm thinking about dating this person. Could you please find out, because this is where it normally works, right? Could you please find out the level of benefit for me to do this? So
Right.
Here, we don't tell somebody what to do, right? They're guided as to, we don't tell them anything. We just request the advice for them or the guidance that their spiritual team has for them. And then we deliver that message to them.
Right.
But they'll make that final decision. They'll decide if they want to follow this advice from their spiritual mentor, their spiritual life coach. Oh, I like that, right? Or if they'll just go on their own and do it. I'm dealing with it from the standpoint of the physical realm. That's up to them. Another thing about how it works is we have to be specific about what we're asking about, right?
Yes.
So the question has to be right. So we're very careful about what someone is asking about. We might go back and say, well, would you clarify this? What do you really mean? There are time frames put on there because a question might be with regards to this month or this week or a particular person or a particular event. Very specific, or it could be extremely general. It could be something that they want to find out about that they'll do for the rest of their lives or the rest of their life. Or it could be something that they're thinking to do next month. The way you ask that question makes a big difference.
Right.
So that's guidance and how it works.
Okay.
So now that I've answered that question, from what I've seen, because we've recorded videos on at least one video on guidance.
There are 2 or 3, yes.
Okay, So this is another one to add to that collection.
Yes.
And the reason why we're recording this video is because we've seen so many people, or we've gotten feedback as well from so many people that either don't understand guidance, as in receiving advice from their spiritual team, or they've learned that if you follow it, your experience is one way, and if you choose not to follow it, your experience is a different way.
Mm-hmm.
So let's start with individuals. Well, let's start with this one. Because people ask us, does guidance change?
Yes, they ask that a lot.
From your experience, what is your answer to that?
My answer is no. Guidance does not change. It might be, if you're asking for a specific time period, like for the next 3 months, I want to be working this part-time job and doing this volunteer work. What is the level of benefit for that? And then you get, oh, it's 85%. But then you go back and, a year later, you're like, oh, well, I had done that in the past and it was beneficial for me, so I could just do it again. And then it was a horrible experience. And when we check the level of, benefit percentage-wise for you to have done it a year later, it was 0. It's like, well, why? Well, because it's a different time frame that you're talking about. So I think that has a lot to do with it, that individuals need to take that into consideration, but also that our spiritual team, they're like our GPS. We're looking at where we are right now on the map, but they're looking way beyond what we can see. And they can see the different paths that we could take, and they let us know what would be the best option for us, just like your GPS does. It gives you 3 or 4 options, and you choose the one that will get you to your point the fastest, or the safest, or without tolls. So that's what our spiritual team does. They help us to make it through in the simplest way possible.
Or the way that they choose, as you, the person, chooses.
Right, you have free will. You get to choose your path.
I like what you just said about, I remember that you'll say, well, this is the fastest route, or this one is more scenic. Mm-hmm. I'm like, who cares about scenic? I want to get there quickly, right? But I totally didn't think about that you are given these different options. We normally choose the fastest.
Yes.
Right, is what we choose. Mm-hmm. Same thing with your spiritual team. They normally will give you the option that will provide the highest good for everybody. You said, it's for them, right? But it's not just for the individual. It's for everybody that's involved with that situation.
Right, the highest good of everyone.
Everybody, right. Mm-hmm. So that's extremely important to understand, right? So guidance does not change. Now, time frames might change, right?
Right.
Depending on what parameters you put on what you requested. Mm-hmm. And maybe that's why people think that it changes. Sticking with that question, does guidance change? I believe that since people think that the more information they give, the more guidance will, I guess, go in their favor.
Right.
That we would deliver guidance to someone and then they'll contact us again and say, I just remembered I did not give you this piece of information. Uh-huh. Does that matter?
It doesn't. It doesn't change the guidance.
Why is that?
Because again, your team is looking beyond what you are looking at.
Well, they've already seen that situation, whatever it is.
They have. Right? They've already taken everything into consideration.
Exactly. With
everyone you'll be involved with throughout the process.
And so that's why we always say, if we require information, additional information, we'll ask you for it. Mm-hmm. But you don't need to give us additional information. We'll say, what is it that you're thinking about doing, and get some details on that. Like maybe if it's buying a house, the location of the house, right? Mm-hmm. And who knows? I don't know what else might be there. And then we go check for you. That's it. You don't have to tell us how many bedrooms, nothing like that. It doesn't matter because your team knows. Mm-hmm. We just have to have an address. There you go. We just have to have an address, and they know what the house looks like. They know whether or not it's good for you.
Right.
So additional detail doesn't change the potential output of guidance, is the point.
Correct.
Okay. So now the next question is, I'm reading off a sheet, by the way, if folks are wondering. So I've seen where individuals will ask a question, and the biggest one is with relationships, it seems like.
Yes, so relationships are very big.
They might ask the question, how beneficial is it for me to date this person or to leave this relationship? And then the level of benefit is not what they want to hear.
Right.
So then they come back and they rephrase the question.
But it's the same question.
Exactly. All they did was just kind of move some words around. Uh-huh. But it's the exact same question. I guess they're hoping to get what they want to hear.
Right, indeed. Because they're thinking,
what are your thoughts about that?
my thoughts are, we're human. We allow our emotions to be involved in our relationships, which affects how we feel about a situation. So if I go and I'm dating this guy, I'm like, well, what is the level of benefit to stay with him? And I get, 50%. Oh, well, how about what is the level of benefit for me to marry him? And it's still 50%. I'm like, well, why is that when he's this and he's that and he's wonderful? And I'm just stuck on, why is it, I like this guy, I love him, but it's only 50%. No matter what I tell them, it's still 50%. Why? He's got a great paying job. He has his own car. He has his own house. It's still 50%. None of that information changes the guidance.
That's again, as you said, because the ascended masters or members of your team, they see the bigger picture. They're not looking at just that individual. They're looking at what you're supposed to accomplish in this lifetime and how you're supposed to go about accomplishing it.
Mm-hmm.
And so if it's 50%, maybe that tells you that whatever it is you need to accomplish is not being helped with you being involved with this individual. Does that make sense?
Right. So then I say, okay, so tell me, what's the percentage if I stop dating this guy? And it's still 50%.
Wow, that's a very creative way of asking the same question.
Well, thank you.
But those are very good examples.
Right?
Those are very good examples. Okay, so I think we've handled that one, right? Asking the same question multiple ways and getting very similar. And it might not even be 50%, but it might be in the same region. It might be, 40?
Right. 70?
But it won't be beneficial is the point.
Right.
Okay.
But it could also go like what we've seen with careers. An individual says, well, these are the careers I'm interested in. Engineering, being a
teacher.
Mechanic, a teacher.
Okay.
And it comes back, well, engineering is 100%. Okay, well, and then they start giving us scenarios, and it's like, well, engineering is 100%, and what that is, that's more on the mechanic line. That's why that's not as beneficial for you. But they want to, because they like cars and they just want to be a mechanic, and it's like, well, your guidance is this, but you have free will. You can choose to do what you want.
Right.
So
the level of benefit simply says or states that if you follow that guidance, you should experience less stress and accomplish more success, is what that is saying.
Right.
For that to happen, though, you have to change your mindset as well.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just going to happen on its own.
Correct.
So, all right. So now let's go to where individuals feel like they're being forced to stay in a situation, whether it's a job that they don't like, right? Or it's a relationship that they want to get out of. Mm-hmm. So, of course, you can imagine that in situations like these two I just mentioned, or any other situation where the person just don't want to be there, that they've approached us with multiple questions, right? Multiple ways of trying to... The way it seems to me, I could be wrong, the way it seems to me is that they're trying to find a creative way to get out of the situation. Yes. By asking a different question. But I could be really wrong. Yeah. No. So anyway, because the guidance continues to be the same thing, right? Like it's not beneficial. Is it beneficial? What's the level of benefit for me to leave this job?
We've had that one.
It's not beneficial, right? It's not that beneficial. What's the level of benefit for me to leave this relationship? It's not beneficial. Okay. What's the level for me to find a new job? Same as leaving the job, It's not beneficial. And who knows what else? They ask different questions. Right. Now they feel trapped because they've told us this. And that's why I bring it up, right? Not told us, but some people have told us
They have come straight out and said, well, this is the way, my job is. And it's so hard to deal with all these people and all these things. And we've had individuals who were given the guidance that, it's not beneficial for you to leave their job, but they leave the job, they go to a new one, And then they experience the exact same situations again. And this time, they're maybe a little bit worse than before. And they're like, oh, why am I going through this again? Well, you could have balanced and done what you were supposed to at the other job, but you chose to leave. So now you've got to start all over again. Or where it picked up off of. So,
it would be the same thing with the relationship.
right, same thing with the relationship. Mm-hmm.
You're unhappy in the relationship, so you pick up and leave.
Mm-hmm.
And then you wind up in something very similar to the one that you left.
Yep.
And then you realize, oh, that's why I was told that it wasn't beneficial to just pick up and leave. Because again, everything is tied to karma,
Mm-hmm.
and it's all about balancing karma. And it's about everything being beneficial to everyone involved, not just you.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I believe that's where people get very confused, because they're wondering, why am I getting this result? When I feel this way. Well, it's good that you feel that way, but how many other people are your feelings going to affect? And how many other people will be affected by the decision that you make?
Mm-hmm.
You're not thinking about that. But the karmic level, there are a whole bunch of other people that are involved. And if you want to balance karma and move on, then you should take that into account. And that's what the guidance does. It takes that into account, that you're not on your own in this life of yours. There are many people that you agreed you'd work with spiritually.
Mm-hmm.
So when you make a decision, all of them should be included. That's, again, the difference between going to, say, a life coach or going to a regular mentor and then dealing with the Ascended Masters or your spiritual team, because they can see the much, much, much bigger picture.
Right.
So feeling stuck has to do with maybe not understanding that scenario,
Mm-hmm.
or just wanting things to go your way so badly that you want to dismiss everything else and just do it your way. Well, in that case, if you feel stuck, then just do it your way. Because the idea about guidance is that it's supposed to make your life easier. And you're taking the easier, quicker path.
Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't mean you have to do that. You don't have to follow guidance. Nobody's going to punish you. Nobody's going to get mad at you, especially us.
Right.
Because all we do is deliver the message. And the angels, the Ascended Masters, members of your team, they'll still be there to help you, even though you did not pay attention to what they told you the first time or second time or third time. They won't give up on you, because that's not what they do. They're not human. So they don't take things personal.
Now, here's an example. Our daughter, she wanted to be a part of the school musical. She was ready to audition. She was all excited. And so she went ahead and she asked, of course, she knows better. She always asks for guidance. Well, what is the level of guidance? And she was sure it would be 100%. And it came back, I think it was less than 0. It was a negative percentage. And she was bummed, and she said, well, no, that can't be. So she asked the question another way, and it was the same result. Well, she decided to follow the guidance. So she said no to her teacher. She said no and stepped away from the musical. Well, it turns out, as it came time to for them to do more practicing for this play, she would not have had time for her studies and for her other obligations that she had, which is why it was non-beneficial for her. So, it could be that you're looking at it as, well, this is so good for me, and she was trying to convince us, and she's our own daughter, but then I'll be able to sing the songs and be a part of this group. But that didn't matter. The guidance was still, no, you should not do it. Thankfully, she followed it, and she did really well with the rest of her academics because she followed that.
But did she figure out why it was non-beneficial in the first place?
She did. As they got toward that last month and a half where they had practices every day for hours on end, she did. She was like, I wouldn't be able to handle my schoolwork plus do the play.
Right, because she took 4 AP classes.
Yes.
As a sophomore.
Yes.
And then she had a cappella on top of that. So, and then piano and all that stuff. So
yes.
Makes sense. Okay. So thanks for bringing that up, because that's how it normally goes, right? You'll find out sooner or later why the guidance was what it was.
Right. Because,
Whatever decision you make, you'll find out.
right. And she's always been a part of school plays, something she loves.
So now let's move on to there are people that then question the guidance.
Mm-hmm.
And normally they question the guidance because it's not what they expected. Now, have you had experience with that where people question it, and what do they do?
Well, some of them try to rationalize why their way of thinking their logical way of thinking makes sense and why the guidance should not be what it is. Others try to tell me that it's wrong and that we should check again and ask the question differently. So it's different. Every individual approaches it differently.
Do we go and check again?
No.
Why not?
Because we know the guidance won't change.
Exactly.
And even there have been times when you have checked again and you were told by whomever came through, guiding you, saying, they've already asked this question, but in a different way.
That's happened a lot lately.
It's happened many times.
So I didn't bother checking at that point.
Right.
So now, continuing with this.
Mm-hmm.
So what happens when someone decides not to follow the guidance? Because I've heard where people think that if they choose not to follow the guidance, then they'll be punished. I've heard that.
Oh, right. Mm-hmm.
And we've had conversations with people about that. What are your thoughts on that?
My thoughts on that are we have free will. We can choose to do what we want. Our spiritual team will still be there for us. If we follow what they tell us, great, we stay on course. If we don't, well, we're off course, and they will do their best to make sure that they help you to get back on course, and you'll have to go through whatever situation you might get into because you used your own free will. And that's what we should always do, is use our own free will.
I like the idea of the GPS better because it does the same thing.
Right, but I mean, from a person standpoint, we're always going to be, if we choose to do something different, like if
right. Still the GPS, that's what I'm saying. If the GPS tells you go one way and you go a different way, the GPS still corrects you and says, okay, turn around.
Yeah, rerouting.
Exactly, right? So that's pretty much how it works. The GPS doesn't get mad and shuts down.
No.
And it's the same thing with the Ascended Masters or our spiritual team members. They'll just say, okay, let's make some adjustments and see how we can help them get back on track.
Mm-hmm.
So then it might take longer, or who knows what challenges we have to deal with that we wouldn't have if we had followed it initially.
Right.
But then that's the way it goes.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I want to mention that no one will disappoint us if they choose not to follow the guidance. Because I've heard that as well. They say, well, you put so much effort into this, and I don't want you to be disappointed that I didn't follow. It has nothing to do with us. We simply deliver the guidance that we receive.
Mm-hmm.
And it's up to the individual to either follow or not follow. It's up to them. Now, I've also seen where individuals follow part of the guidance. Right? And then they add to it. They put their own spin. They put their own spin on the guidance.
Uh-huh.
And then things don't work out the way they were supposed to. Right? Part of it works out. Of course, the part that works out is the part that was guidance.
Mm-hmm.
And then their own spin on it doesn't work out. And then they ask the question, I was guided to do this. Why did it not work out? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, did you ask about part B? You followed part A, but then you did part B. Did you ask about that? And they usually say no. You say, well, maybe you should have sought guidance about doing that before you did it, because that was a major decision. And look how it's affected you. So now it's time for course correction.
Well, but it's not even that. It's more the fact that they think that because they followed the guidance, that everything should have been fine. Because they followed it, except that they did it with their own twist. It's like following a recipe and putting your own twist to the recipe. And you wonder why it doesn't taste like the original.
Yes, I've done that.
Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
I know you've had that happen.
I have.
Where, not you, but where your sisters, they're wondering why their donuts didn't come out the way yours come out.
Oh, yes.
And they wonder, well, what happened? Well, they missed something or something went wrong somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same thing here. If you're guided a certain way, you should follow it exactly the way it was delivered to you. you shouldn't go adding to it.
If you're going to follow the guidance.
Right.
Follow it the way it's delivered to you.
Or you don't go changing it in any way, either subtracting something from it or adding something to it. One of my most, favorite example is where there was this one individual that was guided to go in person and talk to this one individual, right? But for that to happen, right, they weren't getting along. The two individuals weren't getting along.
Okay, so two people, they weren't getting along. One was guided to talk to the other one in person.
In person.
Okay.
And the person asked, well, is it okay to call? No. In person means that you go and you sit with the person.
Face to face.
Face to face, right. And then the person said, but I have to drive 2 hours. And I said, this is the guidance. It's up to you what you do. Well, later on, I got a message from a person, maybe a week later. That guidance was wrong because I talked to the person and we just wound up arguing. It didn't turn out right. Right, okay. And so I asked, did you go to the person and you sat down with the person? No, I made a phone call. I called the person. That was not the guidance, though.
Right.
See the difference?
Yes.
So if you go and do it your way, then the results that you get are not what you expected because you didn't follow the guidance. Then you shouldn't say it didn't work. You didn't follow it. You didn't follow it at all. I've also seen where individuals say something like this. They say, well, I did it, but I didn't think that it would work, so then I changed parts of it. Because I know what this person is like. Because maybe the guidance they were given was something that reminded them of the past or something that they have done in the past. And so in their minds, this is not going to work, so why should I do this? And so then they go and they change it. So it's still a thing about following it, but then with their own twist, right?
Right.
If you're given guidance, though, you should just go and do it exactly the way it was given to you. Because if it's coming from your team, there's a reason why it's coming from them. It's going to be different. The result is going to be different. So I just wanted to mention that as well.
Okay.
Anything you want to add to that as far as guidance?
No.
Okay.
I think we've covered almost everything throughout the guidance videos, so I'll link some guidance videos to this one.
Okay. I think that to me, what I want to say is, in closing, I want to say that the majority of times when we receive guidance for someone, I don't even know how it's going to turn out. Right? There are times that I do know, right? And then I'm guided not to say anything yet. But if someone were to really pay attention to the messages that they get, they would know, because there's subtle words in guidance that tells you, I know where this is headed. I've seen that many times. So I don't really know most of the time what it will be. People assume that I know. They think that I know. I don't know. When the guidance is delivered, I look forward to seeing how it turns out, just like anybody else, if it's followed. And that's why we always ask individuals, keep us updated.
Right.
Keep us updated. There are times when we receive guidance as far as level of benefit, and we always say if it's 70% or higher, we encourage you
to look into
follow
it.
that. Right, exactly. Personally, I prefer 90%. That's me, right? Because 10% challenges is okay. I don't know if I want to deal with 30% worth of challenges. So there are two ways of looking at this. You can say, oh, it's 70% beneficial. Great. You're excited about that. Me, I look at it as, well, what's that other 30% that I have to deal with?
We're going to have to do
not beneficial. Exactly.
to bring it up to 100.
Bingo. So I look at it from that standpoint. So the lower the part about how much work do I have to do, the better it is for me. So I go with that. But I've seen situations where it's gone as low as 60%, and maybe even 55%, but then I'm told what the individual can do to get it to 100%. If that were to happen, we deliver that message to the individual. We'll say, listen, it's 60%. However, you can get this to 100% if you do so and so and so, which covers the 40% of challenges, right?
Right.
And it's all spelled out for the individual.
Mm-hmm.
If we deliver a level of benefit to someone and that addition is not there, it means that it was not given to us. Please don't reach out. We've had this happen so many times. People reach out. Well, could you tell me what the other part is so that I can get it to 100%?
Uh-huh.
And that's because that tells you that they're desperate to do or get whatever it is that they ask guidance on, right?
Correct.
If we don't tell you that there are some, I call it caveats, right? That there's this caveat that will get it to 100%, it means that nothing was given to us. So you don't need to reach out and ask how I can get it, how you can get it to 100%, because I couldn't tell you because I wasn't told.
For example, the same play that our daughter wanted to be a part of, it came time for the performance, and she really wanted to go see it because her friends were in the play. So I wanted to see it, so did her siblings. All right, well, I wrote the question out of, level of benefit for all of us to go and see the play. And it came back as 0. I thought, well, it's not beneficial for us to go see it. And I listed, well, maybe it was just, I have to have the days there. So I listed the days, still 0. Okay, so I told our daughter, and she was really bothered by that. So she said, what did you ask? So I told her, ask for all of us to go see the play. She said, no, ask just for me. I want to know what it is just for me to go and see it. So my husband asked, and it was like negative 40%. It's like, what? It was just not beneficial at all for her to go see this play. And she said, well, could it be the day? No, it wasn't the day. It was overall not beneficial.
Yeah, let me stop you there.
Okay.
Because what you're saying is not really accurate. I'm the one that asked the question, and you forgot what I told you I asked.
Yes, I did.
I
just remember the basics.
I asked the question to show me the level of benefit for us to buy the tickets.
Oh, it was to buy the tickets.
Exactly.
It's not to go see the show.
Well,
correction.
If you buy the tickets, you're going to go see the show. So
right. Well, I was asking just to go see the show, not to buy the tickets.
Right. So I asked about the tickets because we have to get a certain number of tickets for us to go see the show.
Right.
So I didn't ask about attending the show. I asked about buying the tickets.
Okay.
So
that's where all this non-beneficial information came in. And our daughter just accepted it. She was really upset about it, but she accepted it. And a few days later, our son came home from school. He had been working on the set and helping build as an engineer the whole set. And when he got home, he said that the head teacher who was overseeing the construction of the set told him that she's giving us tickets for our entire family to go to whichever performance of the play we wanted to go see. That's why the guidance kept coming back, as far as tickets are concerned, non-beneficial for us to buy them. Because we were being given tickets. We just didn't know that. And my husband wasn't told that. That's just something that transpired as time went on.
Right. I remember when he came home and told us that, we went, oh, that's why. And that's when I told you guys that what I checked for was buying the tickets.
Right.
And not about going to the play. So we all went to the play and we enjoyed the play.
Yes.
For free.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a good way of closing it out. So again, you have to ask the right questions. See, if I asked a question about, I don't know what the response would have been about what the level of benefit would have been for us to go see the play, because I didn't ask that question.
Right.
That would have been interesting.
That would have.
Does that mean that we would have bought tickets and go, oh man, we didn't have to buy tickets? See, but that's not what I asked.
Right.
So.
Okay. Well, if you are searching for guidance on something, you're welcome to send it to 190 Vision. But remember, you should watch the videos on how to understand the guidance.
And what is guidance again? How do we define
advice or suggestions for your life
from
your spiritual team.
or the ascended masters, right?
Yes.
Or if you feel comfortable saying it, from God.
Mm-hmm.
That's where it's coming from.
Right.
So it's not from a regular human being. We are not giving you advice. It's coming directly from members of your spiritual team. That's what guidance is compared to regular advice.
All right. We'll see you guys again soon.
Remember to subscribe and like this YouTube video or Spotify podcast. Join the Facebook group 190 Vision to connect with others who are on a similar journey. Get help by visiting our website, 190vision.com, then click on the Help Me tab. Support the 190 Vision mission by clicking on the Donate button, which is located at the bottom of each page of our website.